Good afternoon, everyone. It's Brett here with Directors. Hey, thanks as always for joining the live events. These have been fun for us. So kind of wanted to start a few things around, I know it's an aggressive market out there, meaning competitive for our buyers, oftentimes going in with multiple other offers. So maybe doing a little series here where we talk about some different offer tactics. Now, as always, guys, you have a real estate agent. They're going to help to go through these tactics with you as well. But I like to talk about from a lending perspective how these tactics have impact to the loan file. So that gives you maybe some comfort as you're discussing with your agent, do I want to use this or not? So what we wanted to talk about today was oftentimes you're going to see a property listed and unfortunately you may need to escalate that price above that. Sometimes you'll see agents intentionally list properties low. So again, an escalation up is important. Now, as part of that offer, sometimes to make your offer more appealing, you may tell the sellers in your offer, hey, if the appraisal came in here, even if my offer is a bit higher, I'm okay covering the difference. But there's a certain piece to that. So the addendum here, at least in Washington, is called a 22AD. And that stands for additional down payment. So it's something if you're talking with your real estate agent and you guys are in a competitive situation, you are escalating, they may ask you, hey, do we want to add in a 22AD clause? So essentially, let's maybe do an example for us. Would be is, okay, you see a property you guys like. The current listing price is $750. But you think there's going to be a lot of offers there, so it may go up, higher. And you're willing to say, well, I believe there's still good value in it based on other sales in the market at $800. So you might be willing to offer up to $800. So that would be just escalating your price up. But then to make that offer stronger, your agent again may ask, do you want to do a 22AD? Meaning, if it escalated 800 and you got an appraisal back and it came in at 775. So let's say 775 appraisal. That would mean we're 25K. 25,000 short for us. So that's the first decision is, if that was the case, are you okay buying a house of 800,000 even if the appraisal is 775? Now, I will tell you in general, we don't see a ton of this happening out there. Occasionally, if it's escalated high enough, and again in a market when it really heats up and there's not great comps, sometimes there is. Now, on the surface, many clients might go, well, no way. If it only appraised for 775, I would never want to pay more than that. Why would someone want to? And I think where that comes into play is when we think about an appraisal, that is an appraiser looking at comparable homes that have sold over the last maybe 4 to 5 months, sometimes 6 months. Well, oftentimes, if we look 4 or 5 months back, like today, it's a completely different market. Those closing prices might not be realistic. So for example, if we're seeing, hey, 7 other people or 10 other people wanted to make the offer at 800, or we see other homes in the neighborhood have sold at 800 and we feel that's justified, I have a lot of clients that think this is absolutely a fair market value today, even if the technical appraisal based on older comps doesn't support it. So that's decision number one. Are you comfortable with that? Now, if you are, then you could again write in that clause, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we are okay with paying up to $25,000 above the appraised value, hence a 22AD. So that's kind of that first decision on would you use a 22AD or not. Now, the second piece is, let's say you've thought about it, you feel comfortable about it, that would be something that would be good is, I'm okay buying a house of 800 if it was slightly under in this scenario because I feel the value's there. So now how does that work in practice for us? So the challenge I've talked to a lot of clients about is mentally they feel okay with the mindset of that. In reality, let's say we have a client that's, again, 800,000 is their top offer, and they plan on doing a 20% down loan. That's how they've been approved. 20% down. That equals a loan of $640K. So on that for us, where I've had a lot of clients go, hey, Brett, I want to make my offer more competitive. I'm going in at 800,000. I'm going to do 20% down, but my agent's talking to me about a 22AD and I want to do one. I think the value is absolutely justified, but if it does come in lower, I only have my 20%. I don't have the extra cash. So unfortunately, I don't think I can do the 22AD. That's not the case. So I've seen a lot of people think that they need to have their 20% plus additional cash in order to do a 22AD. And it's not the case necessarily. You don't have to have it because 20% is not the minimum down. So let's run through an example here for us. So in this case, guys, this buyer is planning on taking $160K in cash. And that's their 20% down. So that's what they budgeted, that's what they have, that's where they feel comfortable. So let's say they made their offer of 20% and did a 22 AD. And then we had a low appraisal. Hypothetically, in this scenario, let's say we wanted the appraisal came in at $750K. The typical assumption is the client would need their original 20% down and $50,000 extra. So that would put them at $210,000, which again, they don't feel comfortable. That's not the case. Here's why. We have an appraisal at $750. As you recall, the original loan amount was $640K. We can still do this for us, guys. And essentially how it works is a $640,000 loan into a $750,000 value equals 85.3%. We can finance on this size loan up to 95%. So this is still an acceptable loan. Now there's only one caveat is I can still do the 800 price, even despite the 750 value, and still do the 640 loan. So they're still bringing in $160,000. There's no extra $50,000 in cash. The only difference is that loan to value ratio is 85%. So there would be a small portion of temporary PMI. So for example, I would need to run it on the scenarios for us, but that would be probably about $60 a month. So let's say roughly that PMI equals $64 in this case. Very small portion to be able to have your offer still go through with zero out-of-pocket cash. So I've had a lot of clients that go, well, I think at this point, maybe I pay PMI for a year, petition to drop the PMI afterwards, but it's a great solution to say this client was able to, in this scenario, make an offer of $800,000, add in an addendum saying I'm willing to pay up to $50,000 more if needed. Hypothetically, it came in that low, they can still do the same loan, the same interest rate, the same down payment in cash. The only difference is that $64 PMI. So just something I wanted to explain is oftentimes, again, I have clients that don't think they can do this scenario, but it is viable for us. So in theory, from a maximum standpoint, if we wanted to do, again, let's update this, 800,000, 20% down. So we're gonna have 640 loan and that 160K cash. We can look backwards and say, okay, at a 640 loan, I can lend to 95%. So 640, that would mean at a minimum, I need a 674 appraisal. So significant difference there, 674. That means technically we could have 126,000 low appraisal and I could still, again, lend them 640,000. Now, granted, the PMI would be a little higher, but also the likelihood of seeing 126, extremely unlikely. But these ideas, guys, give a lot of buyers that confidence, say, wow, I know even if it came in that much lower, I could still perform with the same amount of cash and a small change in PMI. So I've had a lot of people that feel much more confident to either add a bigger 22 AD just to look stronger, or even sometimes waive their appraisal contingency. So I just wanted to provide some insight there. There's a lot of different options here, and this is one thing your agents may want to chat with you on to say, hey, can we make a more compelling offer? But I've seen so many folks, unfortunately, think that they can't do it because they don't actually have the additional cash. But again, if you're doing more than the minimum down, you kind of have a built-in 22 AD option, as we just went through here for you. So if there's questions on this, feel free to let me know. We can always chat scenarios. Of course, any pre-approval I do for our folks, we kind of run through these details so they know at least what tools are in the tool belt. But this has been a great one. In reality, I haven't seen a lot of clients actually need to do it, but I've had a ton of clients take this idea, be able to write a much more compelling offer to put them at the top of the pile. So feel free to reach out, guys. Any questions as always, and thanks for joining.